PHI 203. You're welcome to study session 9. Feminist Ethics. In this study session, we will take a look at the differences in relations that gave rise to the various feminist movements and ideologies. We will also examine the idea of feminist ethics. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Discuss feminism. 2. Explain the feminist moral theory. The concept of feminism. Feminism can be an ideology or a form of social, political, or social economic movement. Also, feminism has recently been seen as a very difficult concept to define because of the various and often very different strands of theories and ideologies that are displayed as feminism. However, in spite of these differences, Alison Jagger has defined feminism as a commitment to eliminating the subordination of women. This commitment to showing, contending, and discussing the fact that women are not inferior to men is, in Jagger's view, what unifies the diverse strands of feminist theories. Feminism began as a movement when it was observed that women were being put through certain unpleasant experiences, which mostly stemmed from the fact that women were regarded as being only a little bit better, or even in some extreme cases not better off, than non-human animals. These have been observed from the way women have been treated down the history. For example, in some cultures, women are not allowed to own property. Therefore, if a woman has any property at all, it belongs to either her father or her husband. Also, in some centuries, women are not allowed to vote or hold public offices. Another example is that some cultures allow men to marry as many women as they like, but a woman is not permitted to marry more than one man at the same time. In the same vein, in some societies, women earn much less than men for similar jobs that they do, in spite of the fact that she is not usually being paid for the domestic works that she does. Also, in a culture, when a woman gets married, she is believed to have married the entire family, and so even a year-old child in the family is believed to be older than the women, and therefore she is required to honor and respect the child the same way she honors and respects her husband. As a result, also, when her husband dies, she is asked to marry a younger brother to the dead husband, who might not even care about her. Finally, the height of this issue is observed in the sutis practiced by some people of Indian origin, whereby a woman is burnt or cremated with her dead husband. All these and many other ways whereby women have suffered gave rise to the same feminism movement, whose main objective were to fight for equal treatment of men and women. Today, however, much of feminism is being done by scholars, and this has given rise to various types of feminism. For example, we have liberal feminism, Marxist feminism, radical feminism, cultural feminism, lesbian feminism, and libertarian feminism, among others. Apart from dividing up the several strands, feminism and feminist ideologies have also influenced many branches of human knowledge in no small way. In most cases, the approach of feminists has been critical of the way most of the disciplines have been going about their activities. Ethics has been one of such ideas which has been affected by the emergence of feminism. The feminist moral theory. Before Carol Gilligan's seminal work, In a Different Voice, Psychological Theory and Women's Development in 1982, feminists, for example Mary Wollstonecraft, had been working vigorously to argue that there is basically no fundamental difference between a man and a woman. Gilligan's work, however, altered the trend of the discussion as she tried to prove that there are actually some differences between men and women. As she discovered through her research as a psychologist, feminist ethics is an outcome of this idea of male and female being different in the ways they approach moral issues. Gilligan made use of 2 children as her research subject. She gave them different moral problems and discovered that they responded differently. Her reason for using children was to discover the natural way either of the sexes would handle issues, before they conditioned to think or react in a particular way by society. Gilligan gave the research subject a thought experiment in which a man's wife is said to be sick and the man not having money to buy drugs for his dying wife. The city pharmacist, however, had a drug that could cure the sick woman, but was neither willing to give the man nor willing to sell on credit. Gilligan asked whether it would be appropriate for the man to steal the drugs. In the responses of her research subjects, she noted that the boy appealed to rules, while the girl displayed a kind of involvement of feelings and emotions. Also, it was noticed that significantly, the male took the approach of justice, while the female took the approach of care. The idea of differences between the ways in which men and women approach moral issues have been examined from 2 different perspectives. From the research of Gilligan, it is obvious that her argument rests on the assumption that this difference is a natural one. However, another perspective views this difference as that which men have imposed on women. This line of thought states that because men have confined women to the home front and thereby forced domestic duties, otherwise called the private spheres, on them, women have developed a pattern of thought in accordance with this. This is explained further that men, on the other hand, designed the public sphere for themselves and have also consequently developed their thought and language in that direction. Nevertheless, it is pointed out that while masculine ways of moral reasoning culturally emphasizes rules, universality, justice, independence, and impartiality, feminine ways of moral reasoning culturally emphasizes relationships, particularity, empathy, care, interdependence, and partiality. Going back, therefore, to Gilligan's story, the female will not just appeal to universal and impartial rules like do not steal, save your wife's life, and so on. Rather, she will consider, among other things, how the man might feel if he helplessly watched his wife die. At the same time, it will interest her to consider how the pharmacist is likely to feel if his drugs are stolen. Also, she will deem it relevant to consider how the woman, after being cured, is likely to feel if she discovers that her husband stole, as well as many other questions like this. The feminist Alison Jagger has contended what Western traditional ethics fails considerably because of the following shortcomings. 1. It shows little concern for women's as opposed to men's interest and right. 2. It dismisses as morally uninteresting the problems that arise in so-called private world, the realm in which women cook, clean, and care for the young, the old, and the sick. 3. It suggests that on the average, women are not as morally developed as men. 4. It overvalues culturally masculine traits like independence, autonomy, separation, mind, reason, culture, transcendence, war, and death, and undervalues culturally feminine traits like interdependence, community, connection, body, emotion, nature, immanence, peace, and life. Based on the foregoing reasons, Jagger condemns traditional ethics and advocates that feminist ethics is a better ethical theory in that it emphasizes all the important points that traditional ethics overlook. Study session summary. In this study session, we focused on feminist ethics. We noted that feminism emerged from the milieu of the various oppressive experiences and the various forms of maltreatment that women have suffered in the history of man. We also examined the theory of feminism. We have now come to the end of study session 9. Thanks for listening.